Why play an Ultimate Ironman in OSRS in 2026? Covering all things Ultimate Ironman, reasons you should try, resources, tips and tricks, and more. Hi there, I'm Schwing. I'm a newer old school RuneScape content creator that's been making weekly shorts, long-form videos, and regularly streaming. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I usually started off with, "Hello there, this is my Ultimate Ironman, Sir Bankless." And as you can see, I've got over a 2100 total level, over 200 million experience. I've got a quest cape. I have most of the achievements done. A number of combat tasks completed, although I still have some work to do there. Over 600 collection log slots, and just over 174 days of playtime. Here are my stats. I've got quite a few 99s, and I'm well on my way to maxing, right? And here is my looting bag as well. You can see I've got quite a stockpile of potions. I have some herbs to process here, a stack of flax from doing the Veil Totems minigame. I have all three of the true hybrid rings from Dagonoth Kings, with the exception of the Warrior Ring. The Elidna Sword from TOA. A hefty stack of Dragon Darts and Dragon Arrows. Some Death Runes, Blood Runes. While I was farming for the Dragon Pickaxe, I got the Voidwaker Blade. So at some point I'll have to grind out a Voidwaker, which would be so sick to have on an Ultimate Ironman. I've got a Master Wand. I've got a Twin Flame Staff, Warp Scepter. I got absolutely spooned a Dragon Crossbow Limbs from Adamant Dragons. I think it was like 2 KC or something ridiculous like that. So that's a good ranged weapon to have. I got the Antler Guard, some Zoro Scales, and Steel Bars from Zolcano. I'm using those for like miscellaneous sailing upgrades as well as construction training. So the reason I'm showing you all this is just to say that I'm decently qualified to talk about Ultimate Ironman. So, what are the goals of this presentation? Firstly, I'd like to define what an Ultimate Ironman actually is and define any relevant terms. Second, I'd like to explain why you should make an Ultimate Ironman. And third, I really just want to provide some quality OSRS content for the community to watch. So this video could be perfect for your second monitor while you do another activity in game, or if you really want to study up like Mr. Mordaunt here, you can just watch this presentation on your main monitor. All right, let's get into it. What is an Ultimate Ironman? First, we must understand what an Ironman is. An Ironman is a voluntary account mode in which a player cannot trade with other players, use the Grand Exchange, or in other words, the GE, pick up drops from other players' kills, pick up items from fallen players in PvP, or enter another player's player-owned house, or the POH, as I will call it later in this presentation. Taking that a step further, for an Ultimate Ironman, all of the previous restrictions apply in addition to the following. You cannot use any bank in game. You cannot store duplicate item sets in the POH costume room, and you must deposit the entire set before it can be withdrawn. You cannot send your servant to a bank or sawmill. You cannot store anything in the seed vault. You cannot gather resources from miscellanea. You cannot create item sets of the GE, and more. Just a note here at the bottom, pun intended, you can unnote items at a bank. You just can't note things. You can unnote items though by selecting the item in your inventory and clicking on the bank. So all you get are these 28 inventory slots. Good luck. There is a silver lining, however. There are some other storage options which Ultimate Ironman can utilize. For example, the Bolt Pouch, which you can buy from Herco in Keldegrim for 1,500 gold, and it stores 4 different types of bolts inside, or other miscellaneous ranged ammunition. There's also the herb sack, which can hold up to 30, yes, I said 30 of each grimy herb. You can get this item from a Slayer Master or Tithe Farm. And just to note, you need 58 herbalore to use it. There's also stash units, which are an incredible source of storage, item storage for an Ultimate Ironman. For example, there is a stash unit in the Warriors Guild that holds a Dragon Battle Axe, a Slayer Helmet, and a Dragon Defender. So insane storage utility there. There's also a full set of Barrows gear that you can store in the crypts. You can also store a full set of Blue Moon armor as well as the staff outside of Cam Torum. So a lot of these stash units have insane utility for an Ultimate Ironman. There's also the seed box, which can store up to 6 different types of seeds. This can be acquired from Tithe Farm once again. There is the rune pouch that everyone knows about. It can store up to 3 different types of runes in its base form. And with the Thread of Elidness from TOA, you can convert this into a divine rune pouch that can store up to 4 different types of runes. This is a must-have on any Ultimate Ironman account. Also, the looting bag, which has the most amount of storage for any one item for an Ultimate Ironman. It essentially gives you another inventory worth of storage. I'll go into some caveats later here about this looting bag, but just know about it for now. And then there's also the chugging barrel, which stores a number of potion doses in one inventory slot. So let's say you wanted to buff yourself before heading into a raid or a boss. You could just take out 1 dose and drink it. You can either drop the vial or it will be crushed, and you have all of these potions stored in one slot without having a bunch of noted items in your inventory. Let's talk about deathpiling. Upon a PVM death or a self-inflicted suicide, all of your items will drop to the ground for 1 hour, after which they will all despawn. Once you do this, your looting bag will break open and drop all your items onto the ground, so you'll need to acquire a new looting bag. You can get one just north of Edgebill from the skeletons, or you could get one from Last Man Standing for 1 point. There's ghost storage for some of the storage items that we previously mentioned. For example, let's say you're doing a Slayer task or killing a boss, and you get a giant stack of runite bolts. If you pick up a bolt pouch that we talked about previously and put those runite bolts in the pouch, then you deathpile. If you pick up all your other items except the bolt pouch and let it despawn, when you go back to buy it again, it will have that stack of runite bolts inside. So an incredibly useful kind of mechanic that kind of gives you a quote-unquote mini bank for specific items. So definitely take a Google search or look at the wiki to see what other items have this ghost storage functionality. If you were to switch worlds, the death piles are always active in whatever world you're in. So let's say you death pile on world 330 and you switch to world 425. The death pile will be on whatever world you are in. The timer, the 1 hour timer, pauses when you log out. So let's say you have something in real life that comes up, or you just want to take a break. When you log out, the 1 hour timer does pause. The only caveat with that I would make is don't necessarily rely on RuneLite timers or whatever timer you're using in your client. I would always keep a manual note of how long is left on your death pile, because I would hate to maybe have your death pile say 15 minutes on the timer, but in actuality there was a glitch and you only have 10 minutes left. So then your entire account's progress, or maybe months of progress, will be just poof gone. This deathpiling mechanic is useful for some wilderness activities, such as doing hard or elite clue scrolls. You can deathpile and then have all your items be safe on the ground while you go do a dangerous activity. Maybe wilderness bossing. You know, you just have to make sure you come back and reset your death piles before the hour timer goes up. That would mean like picking up all the items and then suiciding again. If you look at the image on the left, this is in Edgeville. So what you can do is pick these nettles and it will inflict damage on you if you're not wearing any gloves. And this is a very common spot for Ultimate Ironman to deathpile. Definitely check it out. This is also used for skilling or other inventory intensive tasks. For example, processing potions or upgrading core boat parts. Deathbanking. Certain boss instances or PVM challenges will hold on to your items upon a death. You must pay a fee ranging from 25k all the way up to 500k GP to retrieve these items. Just a note that if you have gold inside this item retrieval service, it will pay the fee from this stack of gold inside. Very important. All of your items will be deleted upon another death. So if you have a item retrieval service currently active and you die again, everything inside is deleted. So it is super important for you not to do anything super dangerous. This mechanic is useful for extended skilling grinds. So let's say you're doing wood cutting, fishing, crafting, etc. You can use this to clear your inventory since you're not going to be doing anything dangerous. You know, once again, as I mentioned, anything non-combat related that you want to do that is also inventory intensive, this is useful for. Speaking of death, here are some other death mechanics. Upon a PvP death, you will literally lose everything. This includes your untradables, which will be sometimes turned to coins for your enemy, anything in your looting bag, and your equipped items. And a note is that you cannot use protect item. You will literally lose everything. So this is why it's super important to deathpile before you go into the wilderness to do anything. PVM deaths. When dying, in some instances, items are left in a death pile outside that instance. For example, I believe Whisperer, when you die during that boss, your items will be placed in a tile just before you descend into the Lasar Undercity. So now that we've defined what an Ultimate Ironman is, why should you play an Ultimate Ironman and forego using a bank? Alright, hear me out. This is my philosophy on Ultimate Ironman. It's an authentic role-playing experience where you can only use what you can carry on your back. So take, for example, this picture on the right. You've got a lone adventurer. He has his bow, he has his arrows, sword. He's probably got like a satchel full of equipment. You know, everything that he uses for his adventures is on his person. Also, every item you carry has a story and a purpose. So as you can see in these two pictures here, you know, maybe this adventurer got this scroll from a crypt that they, you know, journeyed across the land for, or maybe they spent a long time studying herbalore in order to make these potions. The same thing applies to old school RuneScape. You know, maybe you really wanted the zombie axe, so you did all the quests leading up to the final quest, and you completed it, and then you can finally grind out a zombie axe. And that's an item you're going to be using for a long time until the end game. And completing a long grind, finishing a quest, or defeating a difficult boss feels that much more impactful. So, you know, you have all your gear on you, you hold as much food as you can, whatever potions you've made, and you go out to slay this giant monster. And when you be defeated, it feels so great. And let's say you've gone on a long skilling grind, or you're trying to get to a certain quest, it feels like a long journey, and it's very satisfying to get to where you're going. So for my first point on why you should play an Ultimate Ironman, the struggle makes the reward. The UIM game mode is not easy, but progression comes with a satisfying payoff. Remember a time when you beat a difficult boss, level, or puzzle from another game? How did you feel afterwards? I bet you remember these guys. Ornstein and Smaug from Dark Souls 1 are notoriously known for being insanely difficult. It's one of the most difficult bosses in any game ever. And once you beat them, you feel incredible. That's because, higher or more difficult obstacles feel more satisfying to overcome. I would also like to mention the IKEA effect, coined by Michael Norton. Essentially, the IKEA effect is when consumers purchase furniture from their store and construct it themselves. They feel much more satisfied in the product and the furniture they've created. For example, if you do it yourself, you have a higher level of satisfaction. If we translate this to Ultimate Ironman, you spend months or years on an account. You're going to feel incredibly proud of your accomplishments. Let's see how that translates to some examples. All these tasks are satisfying because they are hard to do. Winning a championship game in a sport is not easy. Finishing a long-term art project, graduating from college, completing a marathon, finishing a project car, or purchasing a home. All 6 of these tasks are something that is not easy to do on a daily basis. They take lots of effort over time, and so they feel more satisfying when you complete them. With 28 slots, all of these things become that much more satisfying to do. Completing a difficult combat task, getting level 99 in a skill, completing an intense PvM challenge like the Inferno, defeating a difficult boss like Vanstrom Klaus in Sins of the Father, and lastly, getting a rare item drop. Do you know how crazy it is to have an imbued heart on an Ultimate Ironman? I know, I would think that's insane, and I'm an Ultimate Ironman. Point 2. A simpler decision-making process. Since OSRS is a sandbox with so much content, it can be overwhelming at times. We often ask ourselves, what should I do now? What's the best thing to do? I'm going to reference a book here called The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz. In this book, he talks about how more choices equals decision paralysis. It's easier to regret your decisions, and there are less satisfying decisions. So when you have so many choices, you are wondering, did I miss a better choice? It's easier to regret once you do make a decision. Here's the book. Definitely check it out. It's really great. Once again, let's look at some examples. In which real-life scenario is it easier to make a choice here? Image number 1, we can see we have lots of options for milk, various dairy products, some butter, yogurt, etc. Image 2, we have a few gallons of milk. I would say it's probably easier to choose a product in image 2. In which old school RuneScape scenario is it easier to make a choice? Image number 1 or image number 2? My money's on image number 2. I'd say we probably could take care of those uncut ruby gems or maybe process that toad flax into potions. Versus image number 1, where do you even start, right? 3. Rediscover Gielinor in a new light. By playing an Ultimate Ironman, you will significantly increase your game knowledge on PvM skills, item spawns, shops to use, travel routes. Just to touch on PvM skills a little bit more, in order to conserve your precious resources like prayer potions, Ceradomin brews, super restores, you will be almost forced to practice prayer flicking, good movement skills in order to, not waste food or these vital potions. So it's really gonna increase your skills there. As far as item spawns, I think a lot of people are already aware of the super anti-poison dose 1 that is north of Castle Wars. If you didn't, that's another reason to play Ultimate Ironman, to gain this knowledge. As far as shops, there's a lot of helpful shops in the game. For example, there's a Shazian shop that sells iron bolts. I'll talk about a shop that sells vials of water next to some herblore secondaries. And then travel routes. You're going to learn, efficient travel routes across the game, whether it's through teleports, minecart networks, canoe stations, ones that you wouldn't normally use on a main account. You also just straight up think differently about gold in the game. On a main account, you're just going to use gold to buy whatever resources you need, versus on an Ironman or an Ultimate Ironman account, you don't really need gold to the same extent. Maybe you'll save a bunch of gold for shops or unlocking certain things. But, a lot of times if I get gold, it's either just stored or I, give it to a friend if I have a rare drop that I don't need. There's unique training methods and also unique ways of utilizing items. So let's go into some examples. Example 1. You can see we have the woodcutting tutor here, who is located in Lumbridge. If you talk to him before level 99 woodcutting, he will give you a bronze axe. You can then take this axe to the Lumbridge canoe station, cut down the tree, make a canoe, and you can use this canoe to travel to any of these locations. So this is just a form of emergent gameplay loop that comes from playing an Ultimate Ironman. Because you're so limited on your inventory slots, you don't just have these tools on hand, so you kind of use your game knowledge to get around this and travel efficiently. Example 2. This first image here, you can see we have Waterbirth Island, and there's a ton of snapegrass spawns on this island. You can get here by teleporting via a Waterbirth Island teleport from the Lunar Spellbook. Then you can talk to Jarvald, and he will take you to Relica, where you can talk to this guy, Sigmund, and in his shop, he has vials of water. You can use these vials of water with the snapegrass you picked up and a runnar weed that you are providing and make prayer potion dose 3s. So this is an insane emergent gameplay loop that, anytime, for example, I need a prayer potion, I just pull the runnar weed out of my herb sack. I pick up however many snapegrass I need on the island, teleport to Relica with through Jarvold, talk to Sigmund, get the vial of water, and then make the potions I need. So I don't have to store them anywhere, and I can just make them on the fly. These are some examples of the emergent gameplay and game knowledge that you will acquire through playing an Ultimate Ironman. 4. Flexing rights and recognition. According to the official Old School RuneScape high scores list, there are at least 2 million accounts that have been made. I tried searching as far as I could go, and it would only go to 2 million accounts. So there's probably more, but this is all the high scores have on there. As of today's date, 01/26/2026 at 10:09 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is where I'm at, there are 189,225 Ultimate Ironman accounts. So if we make a pie chart out of that, less than 10% of all accounts are Ultimate Ironman. That means if you are an Ultimate Ironman account, you are a rare 1 out of 10 account specimen, even on a brand new account. Now imagine if you leveled that account just a little bit. At a 300 total level, you would be the 69,452nd Ultimate Ironman account, meaning you are in the top 36% of all of those 1 out of 10 UIM accounts. With the same account, if you got a quest cape, a fire cape, an Inferno Cape, a skill level 99, a rare collection log, hard combat achievement, all with no bank, other players will immediately recognize the difficulty of those accomplishments and oftentimes not even be able to comprehend just how you did them. That is what I would call a flex. Just take my word for it. Even if I love playing an Ultimate Ironman, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. So I'd like to talk to you about the challenges of an Ultimate Ironman account. So for one, you can get locked to a really long grind. For example, if you received a rare item drop that you need to use, this image here is when I got one of the Abyssal Dyes from Guardians of the Rift. It is a 1 in 1,200, and you use 3 of them to recolor the raiments of the eye set. So now that I got this Abyssal Dye drop, I don't want to drop it onto the ground. So I ended up grinding the rest of the dyes to recolor the set and store it in my player-owned house. So that was a long grind. Also, needing to use up a resource or resources after doing a boss or minigame. So this first image here, I had just finished up doing some hunter's rumors to collect some bird's nests. So now I had to process all of these herbs, you know, store the logs or use them, as well as the bone shards. In the second image, I did a grind to level 99 fletching, and I had 122,000 veil offerings to open. So you can see I got a ton of seeds that I, had filling up my inventory that I had to use up. And then lastly, I did quite a few perilous moons in order to get the full blue moon set so I could store it in the stash unit. So all 3 of these cases on the bottom here, you can see I had to spend some time, processing everything that I got before I could go on to the next task. When you play an Ultimate Ironman, it's typically more difficult to switch your tasks. So sometimes it requires you to Deathpile, Deathbank, or even clean up your inventory. So, let's say you're killing a Slayer monster once again, and you want to now go do wood cutting or do some temporas. You might need to Deathbank or get rid of some alks, some clue scrolls, etc. Just so you can prepare your inventory for the next task that you're going to do. All right, before you call me crazy, hear me out. One of the challenges of an Ultimate Ironman is limited storage. Sometimes you will have to drop things that you want to keep, like certain weapons, armor sets that don't store in the POH, unique items, etc. And I feel very strongly about this next point. Some untradeable cosmetics cannot be stored in the POH. For example, Bounty Hunter. We have the Helm of Nadasnot Ornamental. You get the fighter torso. Look how cool that looks. Except we can't store it in the house. We can store the base fighter torso. Why can't we store this really cool ornament kit torso? Also, League rewards. The Blazing Blowpipe. A lot of Ultimate Ironman will have a blowpipe, but if you put this ornament kit on it, you can't store it in a looting bag. So it just disincentivizes, Ultimate Ironman to go for these certain cosmetic rewards. And lastly, treasure trails. Why can we store a Dragon Boots G in the house, but we can't store the Tormented Bracelet, Amulet of Fury Ornamental, or the Necklace of Anguish? I would really like, if anyone from Jagex is watching this, maybe there could be some discussion on reworking cosmetics to make them fair across the board for storage in the house, at least for treasure trails. So, you've watched this entire presentation and you want to play an Ultimate Ironman. Here are some of my personal tips to get you started. 1. Set a goal. What do I want to be able to do? What items do I want to acquire? Is it a fire cape, quest cape, or ornate jewelry box, etc.? Number 2, make a plan. How do I get to my goal? Break it down into smaller pieces. I'd highly recommend using the Notes plugin built into RuneLite. Here you can, write your big goals and then break them down into smaller steps. It's really useful, and I have it on my RuneLite client as well. And third, play the way you want, not what is efficient. It will reduce burnout over time, and you'll get a greater sense of enjoyment from playing the game. So goal, plan, and then play. And then adventure awaits in Gielinor. Also, here are some more resources for you to find more information. Firstly, I'd like to recommend the UIM Discord server. It's the community server for all the Ultimate Ironman. There's a link here in the slide, and I'll also post one in the description below. The old school RuneScape wiki for Ultimate Ironman. It shows tons of information on different skill training guides, equipment charts, etc. And lastly, some RuneLite plugins that you absolutely have to be using if you are an Ultimate Ironman. If you pick one out of all of these plugins, you need Dude Where's My Stuff. It's essentially a tracker for all of your items, minigame points, death piles. It's essentially the plugin to get. So in conclusion, why should you play an Ultimate Ironman? 1, it's a simpler decision-making process. 2, the struggle makes the reward that much more satisfying. You'll rediscover Gielinor in a new light, and you'll bolster your game knowledge. And you also get insane flexing rights and recognition from other players. Some of the challenges of the Ultimate Ironman game mode, however, are getting locked to a specific grind. It's more difficult to switch tasks. There's limited storage. Yep, crazy, I know. And you should goal, plan, and then play. That's my personal recommendation for you. And as you can see in the image in the left, your new Ultimate Ironman awaits you in Lumbridge. If you made it this far in the video, really from the bottom of my heart, I would just like to thank you for watching. I spent quite some time putting this slideshow presentation together and also editing this video. I'm really trying to grow the channel, and the best way to do that is by providing really great content for you to watch. So if you did enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. I have some ideas for future videos. That's how you can get updated when I post anything new. I also have some live streams on YouTube as well as twitch.com/Schwing Live. And lastly, shout out to Madaiza. Hope you're enjoying your lunch watching this video. Bye now.